Hello, this is Amy Sturgeon, and this is a WIDA overview, hoping to provide some guidance for teachers as we move forward with this new school year. So you may be thinking, what is WIDA? WIDA is a consortium of over 40 states working together with a mission to advance academic language development for multilingual learners, MLs, also known as English learners, ELs. We use those terms interchangeably. The WIDA screener determines identification as an ELML. This test is given within the first few weeks of enrollment if they have not already been tested at a previous school. The WIDA Access is the test of English academic vocabulary proficiency that is given annually to students who qualify for ELML services. Students are tested in 4 domains: reading, writing, speaking, and listening. Everything for WIDA is organized into grade level bands shown below, including the WIDA tests, the standards, and the can-do statements. WIDA provides training and professional development resources as well. So the testing basics start with the home language survey. The HLS is a piece of the registration puzzle, and it determines who is given the WIDA placement assessment, which is called the screener. This test is given within the first few weeks of enrollment if they have not already been tested. ILPs, individualized learning plans, are created for those who qualify for ML services. So if the screener determines that they do qualify for services, then an ILP is created. Multilingual learners take the annual WIDA Access test in January and February in Indiana. There are 4 domains: listening, reading, speaking, and writing. So there are 4 tests of academic language usage, and these tests are hard. They're not just testing English proficiency, they're testing English academic language proficiency. The WIDA Access tests are standards reference tests, so multilingual learners are compared to the academic standards, not compared to other students. And we'll talk a little bit about the standards in a future slide. In general, this test consists of pictures, diagrams, timelines, graphs, and text, and then students are asked to listen, read, speak, and write about them. The results from these tests arrive in late April, early May, and the scores range from a 1 to a 6. 1 is the lowest, and 6 is the highest and considered fluent. 5 is considered proficient in Indiana. So an overall score of 5.0 or higher means that the student graduates from ML services and no longer takes the annual access test. A key understanding is that all teachers are language teachers and all learners are language learners. And that is something that we all need to keep in mind as we move forward, that all of our students are learning language and all of us are teaching language. We need to integrate content and language to best serve our multilingual learners. Multilingual learners develop content and language concurrently, with academic content as a context for language learning and language as a means for learning academic content. So the content and the language happen simultaneously. We teach language through the content. We teach content through the language. Academic vocabulary is super important. This is a test of academic vocabulary proficiency. Some students do very well conversationally in English and do not perform well on the WIDA tests. This is because there are 2 types of language proficiency: BICS and CALP. BICS is the basic interpersonal communication skills, and these are the basic conversational skills that develop first. CALP is cognitive academic language proficiency, and that is academic language, and it is the focus of WIDA. So don't be fooled by strong BICS. These tests are difficult. Math, social studies, and science content is included to determine academic vocabulary proficiency. So the reading test seems a lot like a math test. The writing test often seems a lot like a science test or a social studies test. And same with the reading the speaking test. So it is difficult. This is the website where you'll find all the official resources. The WIDA website has official documents, manuals, and guidance for all things WIDA. The standards framework is there, the can-do statements, and so much more in the resources library. The testing information and the test administrator training and a lot more are also in this website in the WIDA Secure portal. And the Test Administration Management System, AMS, is also accessed through this WIDA website. So this is a website you'll want to know depending on your role. WIDA has 4 key language uses. We use language for these purposes in all grade levels, for all proficiency levels, and for all content areas. They overlap and inform one another. You can imagine within your classroom setting, anytime you ask students to explain something, there's also elements of what they're doing that are informing or arguing or narrating, and the same goes for all 4 of them. With WIDA, there are the 4 domains, remember: listening, reading, speaking, and writing. Listening and reading are receptive and interpretive domains, and they typically develop first. Think input. Speaking and writing domains are productive and expressive domains, and they typically develop last and are more difficult. They're producing language, and it's a lot harder. The WIDA framework focus is meaning making. So we are using these key language uses: narrate, inform, explain, and argue, in all grade levels, for all proficiency levels, and all content areas. And they are evident in all 4 domains: listening, reading, speaking, and writing. WIDA has standards. In their most basic form, they're right here on the screen for you. There are 5 of them. And standard 1 is the standard that informs all of the others. If we had to attach standards to our lesson plans, standard 1 would always be there. It's the language for social and instructional purposes. We are always working on that standard. Every single thing we teach, we're working on language for social and instructional purposes. So standard 1 is always there. Standard 2, 3, 4, and 5 are the language for language arts, the language for mathematics, the language for science, and the language for social studies. We teach the language of each of these areas, and there is unique language for each of these areas. So mathematics has its own language, science has its own language, and these standards are guiding us to teach the language of language arts, the language of math. The WIDA Standards Framework document is available online, and at the link that I had a few slides back. It is a 400-page document, so it's quite overwhelming, but it does include 50 to 60 pages per grade level band of standards and supplementary information for each. So it wouldn't be a bad idea to find that document and find the 50 or 60 pages that have to do with your grade level band to get a better understanding of what the standards are. You'll see a lot of overlap with the Indiana standards, and you'll see that each of these standards then breaks down further, just like the Indiana standards do. There are also many supporting documents available on the WIDA website in that resource library that I referred to earlier. When you plan for instruction for multilingual learners, we want to be thinking of some questions each time. And so as you plan, whether you're a pro or new to this, you want to be thinking along the lines of, what are the essential questions for this lesson or this unit? We need to focus on essential questions. What are the primary key language uses for this lesson? Is it mostly narrate, inform, explain, or argue? Once we decide the essential questions and the primary key language use, we can begin thinking about, okay, what specific language skills will my students need? And these are your language objectives for the lesson or the unit. Once you know the essential questions, the primary key language use, and the specific language skills they will need, then you can decide what scaffolds and supports can be provided to aid their learning. So if we are doing something that needs a specific language skill, then we can design our scaffold and support to address that skill and help it develop. So these are the 4 questions that I hope you will consider as you're planning for instruction with your multilingual learners. I want to encourage you to know your MLs. It is so important. They're all unique, and it is so important to learn as much as you can about them. This is a sample student score report from WIDA. And I know it's too small to read, but you'll get the idea that it includes proficiency levels and scale scores for each domain, as well as an overall composite score. It includes proficiency level descriptors, which are kind of like can-do statements, which we're going to get to in a few slides in the future. And they are very helpful to use to inform instruction. Scores are typically reported as proficiency levels. Remember, that's between 1 and 6, with a 6 being fluent and a 5 being proficient. Proficiency levels are based on domain-specific scale score range for each grade level. So we have these proficiency levels, and then the can-dos help us to interpret those proficiency levels so that we have an idea of what our students can do at that level and how to help them move forward. So this sample student score report will be helpful, and hopefully you can find these in your students' cumulative files. Besides knowing their score report from WIDA, you need to know their ILPs. We are required to follow these with fidelity, and ILPs are individual learning plans. States and districts have the freedom to design their own ILPs or use PowerSchool special programs. So our school currently designs our own, and so I took a few snapshots here for you just to give you an idea of some of the sections that are in our ILPs. But you'll see that about every school district has something different. And even though they're unique and different, there are some basic elements that are in most ILPs. There's demographic information about the services provided, whether they're push in or pull out, or how many minutes a week or how many times a week. There is a score history, and there are strategies, goals, and classroom and testing accommodations. It is possible for students to be duly identified. When a student is duly identified, it means that they have an IEP and an ILP. When that happens, we just need to be cognizant of it and make sure that we are following both. So be aware of the students who are duly identified. When you look at scores in an ILP, we want to look for trends in both the overall scores over time, but also the specific domain scores over time. So as we look, if you look at the topmost box on this screen, it's just a snapshot of someone's ILP, and it shows the dates of the tests and what score proficiency level they got for each of the 4 domains, and then their overall. It's always smart to look horizontally and see how they did most recently, maybe how they did the year before, get a good idea of where their skills are now. But it's also important to look vertically and see what are their scores over time in speaking and in listening and in reading and in writing and the overall. Really take a look at these scores, because if we see an overall score of, say, a 3, it could be a 3 because they got approximately a 3 in every domain. But it can also be a 3 if we have a combination of 1s and 5s, and those are very different children. Those are very different abilities and very different needs. And so we need to dig in and go beyond that overall composite score when we're looking at students and what they need. We may see that they need focus on all 4 domains, or we may see that they're doing really well in a couple of the domains and really need some help in 1 or 2 of the other domains. So I encourage you to review the scores, know the ILPs, make sure you're following them. As you look into their scores, I wanted to explain that the overall score is a composite. It is made up of 35% reading, 35% writing, 15% each of listening and speaking. Once that overall score is a 5.0 or greater, the multilingual learner no longer receives services, has an ILP, or takes the annual WIDA Access test. Individual domain scores are important to examine and know to help your multilingual learners grow. The can-do statements are very helpful. They are available on the WIDA website, and they are also available from other sources in different formats. The student can-do statements are shown on the left, and again, I know this screenshot is too small for you to read, but you'll get the idea. These can-do statements are the best tool to interpret the proficiency level scores, describing what the student likely can do at each level in each domain. So we have the domains going down and the levels 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 going across the top. So where they meet up for a student's score, it gives you some representative skills, what a child likely can do at that level. So if I know that they have a 2.2 in speaking, I'll go to level 2, line it up with speaking, and it'll give me some representative skills in the box of what they likely can do at this level. So again, this is invaluable for interpreting the proficiency level scores. Some teachers think those proficiency levels are grade level equivalents, and they are not. They are just a scale from 1 to 6 that are proficiency levels, and the can-do statements are the best tool to help interpret those proficiency level scores. What can a student likely do at that level? I always encourage my teachers to jot the names of their multilingual learners right onto this chart and keep it handy while they're planning, so that it's easy to remember that a particular student is maybe extra low in a certain domain or doing very well in a certain domain. You can just see on paper, oh, for this lesson, I'm going to need to really do this, that, and the other for this student who is very low in speaking, for example. So the can-do statements are a very valuable tool. The teacher can-do statements are not made by WIDA, but they help with accommodations and strategies for each proficiency level in each domain for teachers. So 2 domains are on the front and 2 domains are on the back. And then the levels 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 are across the top again. And what these do, you have that same student with that same imaginary score of, say, a 2.2 in speaking. They're going to go to the level 2. They're going to go to speaking. Where those meet, it's going to give, here are some strategies and some accommodations that will really help students who are at a level 2. So I always joke that I throw these 2 charts around like confetti because they are something that I think are so valuable for all teachers at all grade levels. One thing that I really like about the student can-dos, this particular file that I've linked here for you, is that each grade level band is on its own page. So I love that it's a 1-pager, and I love that it's per grade level band. So it's a 5-page document or 6-page document, I think, for the different grade level bands. But each page, you'll only need 1 page of it, most likely if you're a classroom teacher. You'll have the level that you teach. And so it's just super handy to keep near your plan book, to keep your kiddos' scores close to you and what those scores mean, what they likely can do. So the can-dos are super valuable. So you might be thinking, okay, now I know about WIDA. You may have already known about it. What can I do? What can I do to help? All teachers can help. This is definitely one of those things that it's a team effort. Everything I've talked about so far, I know I talk about it like it's very easy, and it's not. This is a really tough position to be in, is to help students who are learning the content and the language simultaneously. It is hard. It's hard for you. It's hard for them. So what can we do to help? Well, first, I want to encourage you to seek best practices. Comprehensible input is the goal for everyone. How can we make whatever we're giving them more understandable? Comprehensible input. We want to provide comprehensible input with visuals and scaffolding. So at its most basic level, all multilingual learners need visuals and some scaffolding, like maybe sentence stems. If all of us could just add those things, it would make a world of difference for our multilingual learners. But we want to make sure whatever we're doing, we're adding comprehensible input. I encourage you to work with your colleagues to lighten the load for your MLs and for each other. We can, many hands make light work. And when we work together with our colleagues and we refer to our team that we have in our school, and we can lighten the load for our MLs by providing, some of the language for them, by providing sentence stems and visuals and things like that. And when we can lighten the load for one another, where, you know what, you take this lesson and I'll do the next lesson, or I'll modify this test and you can modify the next one, or whatever. I'll make these vocab cards and you can modify the test or whatever. So work with your colleagues to lighten the load, because it is hard. It's hard on the teachers and it's hard on the students. And then I'd like to encourage you to seek best practices by finding support online. There's all kinds of places that you can go for support and information online about multilingual learners. And I've linked one here for you. It's meadowscenter.org, and they are 10 key practices for ELs. There's a lot of great information like this out on the internet, but I really liked this one and thought if I was just going to include one for you, this would be it. I'd also like to encourage you to seek best strategies and resources. There are some wonderful websites out there like ELL 2.0, Colorine, Colorado, and Inspiring Young Learners. There are many, many more, and some of them are grade specific, some of them are content specific, but there are all kinds of wonderful websites out there. So take a look at them, and these three might be a good starting point for you. Also, I want to encourage you to remember that Wabash Valley Education Center has a lot of PD that they offer throughout the year. There are PD Pops, PD Pop Pluses, workshops, webinars, and conferences. So check those menus often, and remember that everything with an asterisk on the Wabash Valley PD schedule is free for the Title III Consortium. So the schools who are part of the Title III Consortium that are viewing this video are eligible to attend anything with an asterisk for free. So that's wonderful. Take advantage of the great training and the resources offered. What else can all teachers do to help? Well, hopefully you can help students prepare for testing throughout the year by focusing on their growth. Make sure you know their scores, but also make sure your students know and understand their scores. Discuss their scores, graph their scores, set goals with them. It makes a difference. Provide extra opportunities for the challenging domains and for the academic vocabulary that arises in everything that you're teaching. Encourage students to read, write, speak, and listen in full sentences with details. Encourage them to interact. That interaction forces language usage. And language usage, if we're encouraging full sentences with details, is going to help them grow. The tests are, a lot of the responses on the tests are graded on full sentences with details, and they'll get more points if they say and write and do more. And the other thing that I want to encourage you to do is make sure that you learn about your multilingual learners. Make sure you're pronouncing their names correctly. You have to ask them and you have to practice it sometimes, but make sure you're pronouncing their names correctly. Build those relationships, build that trust. They need it. Learn about their past schooling experiences so that you can take it into consideration as you work with them. We see all levels of past schooling, from none at all to very similar experiences to American schools, and everything in between. So learn about their past schooling experiences. It will make your life and theirs better. Learn about languages. Learn about their languages on sites like mylanguages.org and omniglot.com that I've linked here for you. And learn about cultures. We don't know what we don't know. And sometimes when we learn a little bit about a language or a culture, it makes all the difference. And so I've linked a couple of great culture websites here as well: Culture Crossing Guide and Cultural Atlas. I want to encourage you to swirl to grow. The 4 domains are speaking, writing, reading, listening, SWRL. And if we add the I for interacting, and we provide opportunities for our students to interact while they're speaking, writing, reading, and listening, they will grow more. Interaction speeds up the development. And this is true for all ages, all proficiency levels, and all content areas. So look for ways to provide opportunities for them to build those 4 domains, but also interact. All ages, all proficiency levels, and all content areas. And I'd like to encourage you, as our final slide here, know your team. Collaborate within your school, or if you have other nearby schools, to benefit your multilingual learners. It takes everyone. It's not just on the teachers or not just on the administrators. We have to work together. Your school may or may not have multilingual teachers or specialists or TORs or tutors. Every school is different. Every school is different. And so know your team, who is on the team, and how can you collaborate with them. If your school has instructional coaches, utilize them. They'll be helpful. There may be other advocates in your community for these students that you want to partner with. And certainly you can partner with the families as well. So create a team, know who's on the team, and work together to benefit your multilingual learners. So thank you for your time today. I hope you enjoyed this overview of the basics of WIDA. If you happen to have any questions that you think I could answer, you're welcome to email me. I've put my email address on this for you, but certainly Wabash Valley is a wonderful resource for you as well. Thank you for your time, and good luck with your multilingual learners.